I come to my second question. Is an in-house inquiry and transfer, as has been done in Justice Varma's case, the best way to tackle corruption allegations? Justice Banerjee, to you again as an insider. There are those critics who say, can an in-house inquiry of judges themselves decide the fate of a fellow judge? We've already heard one of my panelists suggest he believes Justice Varma has a spotless record and thereby seemed to indicate that don't be surprised. Where is the evidence? It could be a setup. He didn't use the word setup, that's my word. But do you believe an in-house inquiry and transfer is the best or only way to deal with potential cases of judicial corruption?
First, the issue of transfer. The press release issued by the Supreme Court indicated that the transfer had nothing to do with the discovery of cash at the judge's residence. Having said that, even if the transfer had nothing to do with it, the transfer should not have taken place at the moment. It should have been kept in abeyance till the inquiry was over. Secondly, as to the in-house inquiry, that is the only procedure which is now established for some time, that the Chief Justice of India sets it up, and you have to defer to the office of the Chief Justice of India that he would have chosen persons of impeccable integrity and caliber to get to the bottom of this.
But judges, sir, with due regard, these judges, with due regard, given no one doubts the integrity of members of an inquiry committee, but are they the right people in a case like this, given the controversy swirling around it, given that whatever has been found requires a police income tax investigation? Is this to be done by judges or by police and income tax?
No one is saying that the members of the committee cannot get inputs from anywhere that they want. It's an open inquiry. Now, you know, the service jurisprudence in this country establishes departmental proceedings. So when departmental proceedings are held, when a prima facie view or an investigation into charges of corruption or misdemeanor are taken up, they are done by the seniors in that particular branch, whether it's a bank, whether it's a bureaucrat, whether it's the police. I do not know why the same should not apply for judges. And if there is something which is found, everything, of course, ought to be made public. If there is something which is found and the Chief Justice of India recommends impeachment, thereafter, under the Judges Inquiry Act, there's a separate inquiry which takes place and which is dehors the present mechanism. So therefore,
the fact is, sir, no one has been impeached. We haven't had a successful impeachment in more than 7 decades. The question is, if any other public functionary was allegedly accused of stacking such of cash in their house, there would be a proper police investigation. Why should judges be treated separately?
You've got to realize the nature of the job. In every litigation, there is one disgruntled party. And every day, that disgruntled party will be complaining that the other side bought the judge, or the judge did not know the law, or the judge has been influenced this way or the other. The nature of the job is such that you have to keep the persons insulated to some extent. And that is what the constitutional experts, the visionaries, thought impeachment was the only way. But we also have to have a mechanism now for these things to be inquired in-house, and for measures short of impeachment to be taken, maybe within the judiciary itself. When Justice Chitutosh Mukherjee was the Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court, there were allegations of corruption against 3 judges. He withdrew work from the 3 judges and ultimately persuaded the 3 judges to resign. There have been other instances. A judge in the Delhi High Court against whom there was some evidence was called by the Chief Justice of India and he agreed to resign. So there are ways and means of doing it.
You maintain
the out of office.
I take your point. You maintain an in-house system is still the best, given that you believe this is a very that judges need to be insulated and therefore it has to be done in-house. Do you agree with that, Colin Gonsalves? Should judges have any special privileges that an in-house inquiry commission is the only way to tackle judicial corruption in your view? There are those already who are saying that there should have been arrests if necessary made in a case like this. The police should have acted swiftly, had a panchnama in place, none of which has happened.
See, I don't agree with that at all. In the present case of the present judge, I think I would be very, very hesitant to jump to the conclusion and to, join this sort of anger or whatever against what is happening. He deserves a right to be defended. He deserves to be heard carefully. And he certainly doesn't deserve to be condemned in the manner in which he has been condemned. Having said that, this in-house inquiry, let me tell you, is a knee-jerk reaction. It's cosmetic. It has always been like that, and I don't think there is any interest in the judiciary to have a structured, permanent, continuous system. Because allegations of corruptions are made against session judges. They're made against all kinds of judges, sometimes genuinely, sometimes falsely. You need a structured system where they can immediately swing into action. You don't need the Chief Justice to appoint 3 judges as a one-time thing that will come up for some time in the news and then disappear. This is a cosmetic thing again, which the judiciary has engaged in for many, many years.
So what would you suggest?
Something.
No, so what would you suggest?
3 judges.
If this is cosmetic, if this is
structured
cosmetic,
system
what would
where
you
you have
done?
a permanent. I'm telling you, a permanent system where the senior most judges form, together with other members of society, very reputed people, a committee, a kind of a body to investigate on a regular basis any allegation of corruption against any judge. Right through the year they'll be investigating. And the police will certainly not be the head of that investigation. It has to be by judges of impeccable repute, mixed with other persons who can contribute to the investigation.
Right.
There are so many. I hear so much. And I'm appalled by what I hear. It can't be, all right, this will come up for a year and will stay in the news, and then we'll go back to business as usual.
But how do you, Gopal Shankar Narayanan, how do we decide that this particular case deserves an in-house inquiry or even a structured inquiry of the kind that Colin Gonsalves is calling for rather than an ad hoc inquiry? Because the allegations are mounting. In the lower judiciary, we hear even more about the case of session judges, district judges. There are even wider allegations. Given all that, can we have a structured system in your view that can be there, a permanent system that any individual, any citizen tomorrow, a whistleblower, for example, could report to this committee and then the committee decides if it's a prima facie case, they will inquire into it? Or do you believe that would in its own way, create even more problems?
I think a major issue is with reference to the practicality of this whole thing, Rajdeep. As of now, we have 2 systems in place. One is under the Judges Inquiry Act, which is where the president will refer it to the houses and there will be an initiation of an impeachment proceeding, etc., if they find that there's something against the man or woman, as the case may be. The second is this in-house procedure, which came out of the restatement of judicial values in 1998 by a full court of the Supreme Court. There is, of course, a third sanction aspect with reference to criminal proceedings, which arises out of the Veeraswamy judgment, which is a constitutional bench judgment. Now, these procedures exist at the moment. I think I think as a hypothetical situation, it would be ideal to have a structure like Mr. Gonsalves suggests. The only problem is, A, who will people it? People who are beyond any kind of influence, either political or otherwise. B, what will be the level of accountability and transparency there? Will we have everything being put up on a website on a daily basis for the world to have its opinions drawn on it? And C, will there be a challenge process? Because if there is a challenge process, eventually, like everything else, it's going to wind its way up to the very Supreme Court, where questions itself may be taken about the judges who are the ones who are under question. So for me, the idea of a system is great, but how do we build such a system? And one last thing, Rajdeep, just one last thing, sorry. On the lower judiciary, I know they have come under a lot of flack in the past. But I must tell you, some of the best judges we have today are in the lower judiciary. It's unfortunate that this perception seems to be there that at the lower judiciary, there is some kind of compromise that takes place, etc. But I'm very optimistic about our lower judiciary. We have some of the finest students from law colleges across the country who are joining the lower judiciary, and they're all very, very good, very independent. I hope we don't have such a view continuing to take root that in the lower judiciary there needs to be question marks.
Orgo Sengupta, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just on Gopal's point, I think this is not also entirely hypothetical. The Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill was introduced by the UPA government, and at that point of time had a fair degree of bipartisan support. The idea behind that bill was exactly what we are discussing, and what Mr. Gonzalez said, that there should be a permanent mechanism for an in-house inquiry of this kind. Because the problem is this: today, even if the in-house inquiry finds that there is something against this gentleman, the fact is that there is really no power that the Chief Justice of India has to take any punitive action. What he can do is he can recommend impeachment, and that's the only process that can commence. So as Justice Banerjee was saying, that what about measures short of impeachment? There may be all kinds of misconduct that have now, that we know, have come to light in the last 75 years, which our constitution framers may not have envisaged. So what do we do with that kind of misconduct? So there, the Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill did two things. One, it said that there were certain kinds of actions that could be taken. Number one, with stoppage of judicial work. Number two, public censure. Number three, issuing of advisories and warnings. And we can debate these. But there are actions short of impeachment that can be taken when there are cases of misconduct. Second,
Right.
who is in the part of this committee? And that oversight committee that had been set up by that by that legislation, if memory serves me right, had a retired Chief Justice of India, a judge of a Supreme Court appointed by the Chief Justice, a Chief Justice of a High Court. It had one eminent person appointed by the President, if I remember right, and the Attorney General. And there was a lot of debate about the Attorney General. But the fact is, there may be two views. But we need to have a high-powered, non-partisan body that can look into these kinds of permanent complaints. And the heavens will not fall. The fact is that anyone can file a complaint, and all this stuff will happen. Yes, there will be some complaints, but those complaints can be screened out at an initial level. Just as a data point, the UK Judicial Conduct and Investigation Office exists. There are 300,000 members of the UK judiciary, give or take a few. The fact is, they receive on average between 2,000 and 3,000 complaints every year, and the number that moves on to any sort of they take cognizance of is less than 20 per year. So the fact is that there are ways and means in which we can do it, and I think this is, again, as I say, reiterate, this is a wake-up call for us to have a constructive debate on a law on judicial standards and accountability, and stop this ad hocism that has held the fort for so long.
Yeah, but the question is, we've been talking about this. I remember in the early 90s in Mumbai, even there, we used to hear about judicial accountability and standards being legislated, and the creation of a structure. Satyapal Jain, are the politicians really interested in actually fixing the problem? Or do they simply want control over appointment of judges? That's all that they want. They don't want to even get into the real issue of judicial accountability.
I don't,
both politician and lawyer.
Let's understand two things. System, what present is, and system, what do we want or we feel should be reformed, or more reforms should come. These are two different issues. At the moment you put that first question, the CGI had no other option, I will use that word, no other option except to order an inquiry into the whole incident, which he has done. And all the three members, two of them are from my region, the Chief Justice of Punjab Haryana High Court, another Honorable Judge, Chief Justice of Himachal High Court, whose father was also a Judge Chief Justice, who was in my High Court before he was appointed, a man of unimpeachable integrity. So he had no other option except to order an inquiry. So far as the other options are concerned, the Chief Justice has already ordered withdrawal of the judicial work from the Honorable Judge, which practically amounts to suspension of the judge. He will not be doing any judicial work. Transfer can be an issue of opinion. Somebody may say he should have been transferred. Somebody may say he should not have been transferred. But the question that you have put, it's not the question of politicians. I think it is a high time when we should rise above our political consideration, our party consideration. It's not a confrontation between judiciary, legislature and executive. The issue has come that such type of glaring incident where crores and crores of rupees are seen burnt at the residence of the house, and the defense given by the Honorable Judge, you might recall, you have been doing that story when Sukhram's residence was raided and about 2 crores were recovered. The same defense was given by him also. I don't know who has kept it my residence. Who has given it.
So you are more inclined to say that the judge has more to answer for. Am I correct? You are
Yes.
saying the judge can't. You believe that the judge has much to answer for. He cannot get away by saying, I don't know who's kept it there.
I say forget about that. This much amount you can't, even a normal man cannot have at his residence. From where this amount has come? And his defense is not that it is my money. Could be you have sold your land, you have purchased something, the amount is mine. His defense is practically the same, which was that of Mr. Sukhram when his residence was raided in somewhere 92, 93. All people whose amount is recovered, they say, it's not my amount, I don't know who has left it. As if people want to just leave amount at their residence.
Gopal Shankar Narayanan, as someone who's saying that Justice Varma you believe is clean, you're hearing Satyapal Jain saying that that the defense is not quite working. To say, I don't know who put the money there is a rather poor defense, he says.
The major difference is that in Sukhram's case, they found the money. In this case, there is no money. Let us have the inquiry go on to its conclusion. Let us not prejudge anything. The in-house inquiry system permits them, and they have, as you've seen in the media itself, get the help and service of police investigators, etc. They'll obviously take a look at the CCTVs. They'll look at the speed cameras, which are on all the Lutyens Delhi roads, to figure out ingress and egress of cars, phone calls.
No, so if it is found, if he is found to be guilty, you're very clear he should be arrested then and treated like any other common Indian citizen?
I believe the system should follow its way to its due course. The due course with reference to an in-house inquiry is not arrest. With reference to an in-house inquiry, Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna has three options. The first, in case there is a complete exoneration, he just submits the file and leaves it as it is. Second, if there is a finding of guilt, he normally usually calls up the judge, gives the judge an option of resigning and ending matters there. If the judge says no, it goes to the third option, which is sending it to the executive, so impeachment proceedings are initiated. That's the process.
But beyond that, it is also, as I say, he is at the end of the day, he may be a judge, but a citizen. If it is found, and it's a big if it is found that there is guilt prima facie, it should be the subject of a criminal investigation. Justice Banerjee, are we clear about that?
Absolutely. Judges are amenable to the Prevention of Corruption Act, and a judge who is prima facie found to be guilty after an in-house inquiry should be subjected to the law of the land like any other ordinary citizen.
Okay, that's very clear.